Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday stream, including a book club, Felicitations Book Club with me and Bonnie Burton. Hi, Bonnie.
Hey, how's it going?
I am stressed, and I'm stressed,
Oh,
and it's not like I'm unreasonably stressed. I have
yeah.
for some reason, over the next couple weeks, I have everything happening. I have a speech that I haven't written. I have a crib that I'm trying to get rid of on Buy Nothing, but it has one of the railings missing. And I was like, should I just throw this out? But I hate throwing anything out that's slightly useful. I was like, would you like this for your dog? So, and then
Oh.
I'm learning Polish. So I actually have a teacher and now I have no time to study, which makes me feel like an
Wait.
underachiever.
Why are you learning? Can I ask why you're learning Polish? Is it just something you always wanted to learn, or are you going to Poland and you want to speak it?
I mean, I would love to, I'm going to Poland in the next couple of
Okay.
years. My grandmother was Polish. And,
Oh, right.
her passing away last month was like, I want to create a connection to her. And the
Yeah, I
fact that
get
she
it.
was Polish, and, there is a way that I can get citizenship. And I was like, well, let me learn about the culture, learn about the
Wait, what?
language. Because she's
You can get
Polish.
citizen.
Maybe.
I
I'm looking into it.
Okay, because let me tell you, I went down that route because I was like, let's just say there was a person in charge of our country I wasn't agreeing with. I'm not gonna say who it is, so people don't think I'm coming for them. But I was like, okay, my mom's Italian. I know she's half Italian.
Oh,
So how much
Italian.
Italian do
It's
I have to
actually
be?
pretty well, if it's a
No,
woman.
it's not.
If it's a woman, it's not easy. Yeah.
If it's a woman. And so I couldn't do that. And I was like, and then my parents, my dad's side are Welsh, but they're like Welsh from a long
Yeah,
time
yeah, yeah.
ago.
You're like
And
muddy American.
I would have more luck getting to live on the reservation than I would to leave this country because we have a lot of like Native American.
Oh,
I think it's
wow.
like we have Cherokee, Choctaw, and I think Arapaho. So I'm like, but that's, I just want off the land. I just want out. I just want to go somewhere else. And then I watched a True Detective and I'm like, Iceland looks nice because they didn't shoot it in Alaska, but Iceland looks nice.
Well, they do. There's a lot of nomadic visas that you can apply for 1 to 3 years.
Huh.
But I'll tell you, the easiest passport to get if you want one is Panama.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is?
it's one of the easiest ones. They really
Oh,
like
okay.
people buying low-priced real estate there, and if they like retired people. I've never been the swampy. I
Oh.
don't know about the swampy atmosphere of a tropical
Yeah,
jungle.
I don't want to go directly. I don't want to directly go from LA on the surface of the sun heat to swamp
Yeah,
because I feel like this hair right now, this took a lot of work to defrizz because when I am in normal humidity, it's like, and then also LA weather is just like sucks out
it's
my
so
soul. Though I've been
dry.
loving
No, it's so
this.
dry. I'm just I slather Aquaphor all over my face at night. That's why I
I've
have
been
good
getting out.
skin, but it's I have to
Yeah, you amazing.
slather.
Your skin's amazing. Not to sound like put the lotion in the bucket, but your skin's amazing. And also, I mean, have you tried snail?
Yes, I
That
use snail
snail
mucin.
lotion?
I use that. I use the dual essence CosRx, which has the
Okay.
snail mucin and the niacinamide on it, and then I also use Aquaphor, and I use a couple other things.
Okay.
But it's nothing
I
that
like that
expensive, and I have better skin than fancy ladies.
I like that just talking about how stressed we are, we have now become a beauty tutorial all of a sudden.
Who wants to know what my skin prep routine
Hi.
is? And then TikTok, the whole thing where people deliberately
Yeah,
clean their face to get a TikTok to go viral because I guess cleaning your face is really popular on TikTok.
it
I've
is.
never done it.
I'm because I do social media strategy for a lot as a consultant for a lot of different companies. And right now I'm working with an influencer, which is a new thing for me to work for like a young influencer. And
Yeah.
so but I'm on all the socials. I've always been on the socials since social media started. So
Yeah,
like we're talking
you're
about
really into
TikTok.
it.
So we're talking about TikTok algorithms. I'm like, well, it changed again, just so you know. And also Universal Music Group took all the music away. So it's like
I
a lot
know.
of you have to like I found out you can just put new music on your video if you have one already
I had
posted.
one. It was a Maybe It's Me, or it was not Maybe It's Me. It was Call Me Maybe. It was like a
Yeah.
YouTube rewind expert, and then they notified me that now it's silent, and I was like, "What am I supposed to do now?"
Yeah, I'm going for more independence and also like independent like labels, but
Hmm.
also I'm old, so I use a lot of stuff from like here's the thing. I think Saltburn broke TikTok because everyone's like, oh, what's this new music from Saltburn? And so that was a lot of Universal stuff.
Mm.
And then I was like, no, I'm going way, way back. So like the stuff I put on are like, punk bands and also Len Steal My Sunshine. I hadn't listened to it in forever. I'm like, I'm
That's a
putting
good
that on.
song.
And it's yeah,
It's a
and
good
also
song.
sound effects are fun. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm kind of rediscovering TikTok. I was on it in the beginning, right when it started. And then all my friends who are in privacy and security were like, you need to get that off your phone because they can read your
I remember
notepad.
that. I remember that.
All my
That's why
passwords are there.
I removed
All
it
my
for a couple
passwords.
years, and then I was like,
Yeah.
I
And
got
then
to
I
do this
was
for my
like,
job, and I have fun with it
yeah,
actually.
yeah, I did too. I'm kind of mad I missed that wave where like I have friends on it now who have zillions of followers who barely do anything. I'm like, oh, I missed my chance to like get
Yeah.
in on that. But at the same time, everything changes every so many years, and I'm still using Twitter. I just want to keep it weird. I'm like that person in the Midwest who refuses to move because I still think I can get drag queens to move there. That's kind of what Twitter is for me right now.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, man. But I have to stay there. I mean, I don't want to make like a flouncy like I'm leaving and then
Yeah,
have
it's
to
like I'm
return
moving
for
to
work.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like all the celebrities are like, if Trump gets presidency, I'm moving to Canada, and they didn't go to Canada.
Yeah,
So
they
it's
didn't
like
go. Like be
I don't
realistic,
I don't
guys.
know. I feel like staying and fighting for the homestead, even though Darth Vader's in charge, is fine. It's just, it is what it is. But also, I also need to kind of maybe not be on social media because I have enough problems keeping track of time as like an elder ADHDer. so so when I'm on TikTok, suddenly it's like it's like that SpongeBob 5 hours later. And it's like, wait, what just happened? Like wait, what just happened? Like I forget time passes when you're on TikTok. It doesn't come to a standstill. And Instagram, same thing. Because I'm trying to catch up with all my friends. I'm doing that thing that happened to me during the live journal years where I'm like, I don't have time to read everyone's blog to catch up. And then when I see them in person, they're mad that I don't know what's going on with them because they didn't read their live journal blog. So now it's kind of like the same level of stress where I'm like, okay, I'm losing friends right and left. So I need to keep the ones who actually do like me happy. So that means I need to go on their
I mean, if
Instagram and see what
somebody's
they're
gonna
up to.
unfriend you because you didn't read their live journal, they're not a good friend. That's not a friend.
I think
It's
I'm
an
just being
acquaintance.
unfriended. Yeah, I think I'm just being unfriended because I'm finally in therapy. And my therapist is like, you need to stop trying to be what everyone wants you to be and just be yourself. But
That's way
that's,
easier said than done. That's like a 20-year lesson for me. I mean, at this
yeah.
point in my life, I don't care about anybody except for me, my kid. That's
Yeah, but you have
it.
a kid.
Like,
You
but
have,
I have
you
a
have a kid.
yeah, I mean, as long as I can pay my bills, I really don't care. Like, I'm gonna have to turn down something today that they asked me to be part of, and I was like, is that cool? But I'm like, I don't know. And it's people I know,
If you,
but then I'm just like, I'm overextended. I'm stressing
that's
out.
what I was
And if
gonna say.
somebody's gonna be mad at me that I'm not part of their Kickstarter, then they really didn't want to be there for me as a person.
I
Um,
mean, it just depends on your bandwidth, and that's something that
I have
and
none.
also it's you know what? Sometimes you're just like right now, I think I told you before we started, I'm gonna be a little vulnerable here. I am desperately searching for paid work because all of my paid gigs ended in December. So now I'm just scrambling for work, and all the interviews I go on with major companies, I get to like right about when they're gonna say yes, and then they like, oh, you have too much experience, which is just code for you're too old. You're not going to be a good culture fit, but they can't say that legally. So they just say, oh, you're too experienced. I'm like, yeah, but don't you want someone who's too experienced doing a junior level job for more money than I've ever made in my life, by the way, in a junior level job that I know I can do in my sleep rather than train someone who's going to screw up? But they don't, that's not the mentality. So
Mm-mm.
now I'm just like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? So I just do social media strategy for friends, companies that are not paying a ton, but it's something. And also I feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. But then also I'm developmental editor at Penguin Random House, but my position is just contract and it's just for one book. So I'm hoping to wow them with like that presence.
Mm.
And then I'm like, okay, how do I monetize? And then I'm watching so many YouTubes on how to make money as a writer when you're struggling. And it's like, I mean, I could get a job as a barista, but I feel like that would make me go full homicidal in LA if I did that. So I
I
don't
mean,
know if
a
I
lot
want
of people in chat who are listening to this or watching
to.
this as we are recording, it is a really bad job market right now. A lot of people have been laid off. They're laying off more in tech and entertainment. It is really tough. I know people who are selling their houses. They're moving their families back to like Omaha. This
Yeah.
is not just you. It's a really hard time right now.
My
Um,
friends just one of my best friends just moved to Montana. In fact, I went to Montana to dog sit for her when she was getting married in Hawaii,
yeah.
and it was in Helena, Montana. By the way, an adorable town. I've only been to Bozeman and Missoula, Montana, which are college towns, right? So I'd never been to the state capital. It's either Helena or Helena. I kept calling it Helena, but I think it's Helena. By the way, they do not like Californians at all there, which is fine because that's how Colorado is. And I was raised there, and they don't like LA people there too because they think they're taking up the land and hiking up the rent, which they are. But I got there, and it was this quaint little town. They have bookshops, mom and pop bookshops everywhere that are thriving. They've got breweries. It's kind of like 90s older Colorado almost because there's like craft breweries and there's
Oh,
the
that's cool.
old
I've never
people, the
been
old
there.
cowboys. Yeah, but it's really queer friendly. There's a lot of cool like kids like your age, our age, maybe a little younger that are running things that are parents that are like punk rocker kids and kids from Seattle and Portland that moved there. So it's like it's got a good mix of like natives and just cool people, but it's small. I think it's under 25,000. But I met an Instagram friend named Sarah who watches our show. And she saw that I was there, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to hang out? And I'll show you bookshops and stuff." And I'm like, "Done." And we went to like
That's
a
great.
we went to a cute little vegan bakery called Dear Potato that the inside of it looks like Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like it was such a fun trip, but it reminded me that I do not have to live in LA if I work
I
remotely.
mean,
I can live
honestly, nobody
anywhere.
nobody needs to live in LA. We don't need to
I
be
listen to
where
TV people.
and for the record, my opinion about why there's so many layoffs and why it's so hard to get hired right now is that because of COVID, people were able to flex their power, like just
Yeah.
after the Black Plague. I mean, this is true. There was a huge revolt
Yeah.
with workers who were just demanding, hey, you got to pay me what I'm worth now because the workforce is smaller. And so companies had to actually pay people what they were worth. And then they show their shareholders that, and the upper echelons are like, well, we need extra money.
Yeah.
I need 100 million, not 99. You need to cut this. You need to cut expenses to get your $30 million bonus, CEO. So they're going through and slashing people,
Oh yeah.
trying to replace them with AI. So their
Yep.
bottom line is higher for the rich, shareholders and owners. So this is like a cultural thing and a class thing and it's just a lot of things at once. And I feel like
Yeah.
they're going to have to hire people back because I know people who, their departments have been gutted and they're just literally burning out because they're expected to do so much more work because they've laid off so many people. So this is just a pendulum that's
and
going
that
to swing
happens.
backwards.
Yeah, and that happens with a lot of creatives because when I was at Hunt to Killer Games, they were making a lot of money during lockdown because people were playing these murder mystery immersive board games, right? And then when, we all pretended COVID was gone and we all got vaccinated and started going outside more, the profits weren't there and they had to lay off a bunch of people. And I think that happened to a lot of companies, especially streaming, because suddenly their numbers weren't gigantic anymore.
Yeah.
So I just think it's like, I think there was just a lot of growth that happened that was not sustainable growth during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And now
And
everyone's
streaming
like, oh
too, like
crap.
in entertainment for streaming. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
people,
And also and I don't blame the strike. That strike should have happened like maybe a few years before, but it should have, I'm glad it happened for everyone involved. It's just,
I mean, we might
I
have
think right
another one in
now,
June. Who knows? Like
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like, I'm just doing as much as I can while I have it, but I'm
Can I
stressing
tell
out.
you a can I tell you a secret? That's not really a secret because we're, people are watching. But I'm pivoting to government work, so I applied at the FBI.
I don't think you're supposed to tell
Not
people
as
that,
an
Bonnie.
agent. Not as an agent. Not as an agent because I'm too old for agent work. I'm not going to be Scully or Mulder, but they have a publishing division and a marketing division.
That's so cool.
Right? So I was like, so my friend Lenora, who's a PI, she's amazing. She's a stalker rights advocate and she's a PI. Her name's Lenora and she's amazing. And she went through FBI Citizen Academy, which is open to the public, but you have to apply for it and be recommended. And you go through all the classes and you get to go to Quantico and all this cool stuff. And that helped her get her PI license, having that certificate.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, a lot of people go through the courses so they can get better leg up on FBI jobs. I'm like, oh, I'm doing that.
Oh, okay.
So if I pivot slightly, if my social
You
media
know
starts
what?
to sound a little like,
You pivot the way that's going to make you feel happy and healthy because you don't want to get to the end of your
oh
life.
my,
You were like, I was just trying to get in. Like that's my attitude toward Hollywood. Like my whole adulthood has been trying to get Hollywood to accept me, and I'm like, I don't think they're going to. And if they want me to play with them, I will go play. But they're not. I'm never going to be like, oh my god, they like me now. No, it's going to be provisional, and that's fine. I have my own life, and when I
you
get to
broke the
do,
rules though.
yeah,
You
but that's
broke the
fine.
rules. You do realize you changed Hollywood significantly with the guild,
I
right?
don't, I changed something and that's fine. I don't care about that. Like,
Okay.
honestly, I really
Okay.
don't care. Like, I'm proud
Okay.
of what I've done. But I'm saying, like, when you're trying to get a system to appreciate you and they're not, at a certain
Yeah, yeah,
point, it's not a problem with you. It's a problem with your fit with the system. It's not a problem with
sure.
the system either. The system doesn't have to accept you. You don't have a right to be accepted, but you have a right to exist as you. And if that system you're
Yeah,
trying to get in doesn't appreciate you, find a different system because,
I agree.
so I'm excited for you. Um,
I'm too, but also I'm glad that we do this because this
sure.
is the highlight of my month,
Well, we
and I
do have
love
an
your
interesting book
yeah.
so
Here's the thing. This book, I don't Maria Bamford's. I don't know if you're watching, but I'm just gonna tell you right now. I don't know how you got into my brain and stayed there, but this book made me feel so seen and so like legit happy that it felt like, oh shit, I went through that. It's like, oh, I'm not the only one that goes through all this. And it was funny and it was touching. I read it on the plane, like I reread it on the plane to Montana and back. So many people stopped me at the airport when they saw the book and said, "Oh my God, I love that book." Like two
mhm.
different flight attendants and a pilot said, "Oh my God, you got to the audiobook is great too. You got to do the audiobook." Like so many people love this book. It's gotten awards already, but it's like this book is also like one of those books where you're like, "Holy crap, like my childhood was similar, my adulthood, my dating hood, my vices, like it just I just felt seen and I don't know, I think you did too cuz especially the violin part, right? When they're talking about
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, I didn't necessarily okay, so I enjoyed it and I laughed so much and the violin part was like, "Oh my God, I feel so Suzuki scene." At
yeah.
the end of the book, I felt a little worried for her. I will
Oh
say,
yeah.
because it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like she's in a place where, but I admire that. I admire she didn't put like a rosy glow on it. And now I'm cured. Well, no, I'm not
Yeah.
really. So, if you guys aren't familiar with Maria Bamford, she's a brilliant comedian. She has several specials. She had a show called Lady Dynamite that was on Netflix for a couple seasons. She's beloved by the comedy community, and she's just very honest and funny and unique. She has a very quirky voice, and it comes through so well in the pages. She says
Yeah.
earlier in the book that she hired editors the minute she got the book deal. And I was like, I don't know. It feels totally her voice. So kudos to the editors who helped her kind of craft this book because it is so good and funny. And the way she describes her mom and her dad and her sister
Yeah.
is so riveting and biographical and funny. And then she goes through a series of like her getting into these, not cults, but like Eaters Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, and Debtors Anonymous, and AA, and all these different self-help groups that she sort of has in turn gone to over and over again in her life, and kind of, I don't know if she ever adds it up like, oh, this is what I took away from all these groups, but like it's just really funny. So Bonnie, how are you feeling? Like you were raising your hand about one of those. Were you part of any
Oh,
of
no,
those
no,
kind
no.
of
It was
groups,
just
or you're not
like
supposed to say
it
it?
was yeah. Yeah, those are the groups I'm in currently. I'm in Overeaters. I'm very transparent about my I'm gonna say EO because I think you will get in trouble with YouTube when this later goes on YouTube if you say the phrase. Oh freak it, I'm gonna say it. Eating disorder. I've had eating disorder since I was 8. I went through all of them and then acquired a new one called binge eating during COVID, which I did not know was a thing. Super cool. That was awesome. And I gained a ton of weight and that in turn made me more unhealthy and more unhappy. I was not in therapy yet. I thought I was going to die anyway because of the COVID. Like we were all in a scary place, I think, during that time, and we all
Mm-hmm.
dealt with it in different ways, whether it was healthy or unhealthy. I know a lot of friends that went straight to alcoholism or straight to, hey, I'm going to try new drugs or straight to sex addiction or whatever. I get it. Everyone panics when they're kind of in that mode, but for me it was just I was like I didn't even know I was in that zone of an eating disorder because I wasn't starving myself and I wasn't throwing up, but I wasn't doing health. I wasn't making healthy decisions. So when I went to rehab for that, but because it was COVID, it was outpatient only. But I got a sponsor. I have group that I do like every other week. There's meetings you can go to when you feel like you might be slipping. It's different than drugs or alcohol because you can't just stop eating. Like you could just stop doing drugs or stop drinking or whatever. It's you still have to eat. You just have to realize why you're eating and how
Well, I have to
and
say,
all
yes,
of that.
having never been in any of these groups, I did that whole section. First of all, that whole section was really interesting to read about how she basically would overeat and binge eat, and then she'd over exercise. And this
over
is
exercise.
this is as a teenager. And that
Yeah.
was something I'd never really been exposed to, and the idea of it. And not to say that I have ever done that, but I do know that when I'm bored, I go and eat. I'm bored, and I
Yeah.
see that in my behavior. And like when I want to get out of the house, the only excuse I can come up with is I'm going to drive across the town and get a pastry. So like I see where something like that could become an issue, and
Yeah.
like I
I
have a
mean,
lot of sympathy for it and empathy for like people who
yeah, and
go
also
through that.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that exercise can be an addiction depending on how much I mean anything can, to be honest,
Yeah,
but like if you're doing exercise to get rid of what you just ate, but you're over exercising, that is definitely in that realm.
yeah,
And the fact that she covers this in that book in her memoir was really insightful because the way she talks about it, I've had friends that are big athletes that I didn't know that during COVID kind of went overboard with it because
yeah.
they're like,
Because you're
this
just
is all
like,
I
this is all I
know.
can know. This is all I can
This is all I
control
can
right now.
control.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's about even though you're out of control with an eating disorder, you think you're in control because that's the only thing you can control is what goes in and out of your mouth. So I get it, but I really liked her take on it. But also, you know, I've gone to many a meeting where it's also like kind of getting pretty woman shamed at the fancy clothing store when you are not super heavy looking, but then you go into like not Torrid, they're pretty nice, but like some like maybe some of the other plus size only stores. Now a lot of stores have plus size sections, but they didn't always have that. So sometimes you had to go to like, I don't want to say Dress Barn because it's a horrible name, but like
there is a place called the Dress Barn, and it is.
there is, there is. I've been there. I've been there. In fact, I think as a teenager I modeled for County Seat, which was right next to Dress Barn, and yeah. So yeah, anyway, yeah, that's my fabulous
We
runway
all, yeah,
supermodel days with County Seat in Colorado. No, I like this book because it also talks about addictions that I wasn't familiar with. So I don't have a sex addiction. I don't have certain addictions. Like I probably should go to Debtors Anonymous because I find myself scrambling for money constantly, but I don't do retail therapy like some people when they're depressed and they go shopping and they don't look at the bill. I'm not that brave. I still look at bills every day to make sure that my identity is not stolen. I don't have
mm-hmm.
weird charges. But her take on these things was very interesting. I'm an adult child of alcoholics. I think she is too. Those meetings are very interesting compared to actual AA meetings. And I've been the wingman many a time for many a partner, like a romantic partner or family member or friend to NA and AA meetings. So in fact, that's where I did my first stand up. I think was NA or maybe adult children of alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
It turned into stand up because when I get uncomfortable talking in front of people about personal things, I switch to humor, and it's not to like make fun of anyone but me. I don't make fun of other people. I make fun of me, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a defense mechanism, and I find it fascinating. And maybe it's not that big of a eureka moment that so many comedians who do this for a
Oh, for
living
sure. They're all just
have
angry,
so
sad
many
people.
addictions.
Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Angry and sad is what gets somebody alone on stage, which is fine. I'm working on
yeah.
a one-woman show myself. One day it'll happen.
Oh my God, are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
One of
awesome.
many
I love that.
things. You never know if it'll ever
Well,
come
you
out of
did
my
improv,
house.
right? You've done comedy. You've done improv.
I've
Have you
done a
done
lot of
stand up?
improv, yeah, but improv is
You
totally
do
different
stand up?
from writing. I did one stand-up class, and I did not enjoy the process of going to open mics and other comedians, so I was like, I can't stick with this. First of all,
See,
it was
I
late at
like,
night. It's late at night, which I
yeah,
don't like going
yeah,
out at night.
yeah.
And the people who are there are generally like they're there for themselves. They don't care about you. There's no like
Oh,
community like support situation. Also,
oh no.
are kind of like jerk dudes. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah,
No,
nah.
I think we've talked about this before on the show, and I think I've revealed it to you many times. I do secret stand up. So I've been doing stand up since college. I just wouldn't tell anyone because I want to work on
Mm.
my comedy writing. So it's more like I'm workshopping my material on a trapped audience who are drinking alcohol. That's basically it. I also do it to all my Lyft drivers. They get comedy Bonnie because I'm working out my comedy stuff. And I've done open mic, predominantly open mic. Every once in a while, I got to do Sketch Fest, which was great and very fancy. And every once in a while, I got to do a variety show at a real comedy club. But for the most part, all my stuff is open mic, which is kind of like I want to say it's almost like an extreme sport because you don't know who you're going to go behind or before or after. And a lot of times it's not just comedy. So I think the one time I was like, I can't follow this act was at Republic of Pie in North Hollywood. They did open mic, and I did a comedy set after someone who did Clash cover, the band The Clash covers Rock the Casbah with a didgeridoo. And I'm like,
Oh,
I can't,
that's just too hot.
that's too good.
How did
That's
you
too
keep your
good.
panties on?
I was just like, okay, this is gonna be a short set because I want this guy back up here. And then he offered to like be my background music for my comedy set. I should have dated that guy. That would have been a good story. Anyway, yeah. So
You
when I
can
was
just
reading
make it
this
up.
book,
Put in a script.
yeah, what was the Truman Capote quote? Don't let the truth get in the way of good story.
It's
Um,
true.
by the way, if you're not watching that Capote and the Swans Ryan Murphy series on Hulu, it's the second season in the Feud series. He did the Crawford and Betty Davis the first season.
Oh, yeah.
This season
I've read about the Truman Capote feud, and it's really fascinating history, and
it's
I would enjoy watching it.
it's very Real Housewives before Real Housewives, I'll
Yeah.
be honest. And also I had to look up a lot of those broads because I'm like, I don't know who the New York rich
Mhm.
people are. And so
There's some
but I
crazy
watched,
stories with those ladies.
oh my goodness, yeah. And also there's a documentary on Hulu. There's a documentary, I think, on Max and
Oh, really?
Netflix. There are different documentaries about all of it. But Capote's always been one of my favorite writers. But he's also very polarizing.
Yeah.
And he has his own vices. You see his alcoholism and his drug use throughout that season. But I was starting to, I always know writers have vices because I always joke. Dorothy Parker's my favorite writer, but I always joke about, oh, I haven't gone full Hemingway or full Parker or whatever when I write. I try not to drink when I'm writing because who knows what could happen. So I need to be productive. If I'm drinking, I'll get sidetracked even more and tired, which
Hmm.
is not a good combo.
No.
But with this book, I was like, okay, she's done a lot of stuff. And also she started out in a very interesting way with her comedy. I think was it in Portland when she's mixing her comedy with her violin playing because she, like you said, she was a Suzuki violin.
That's my favorite part of the book.
Can you explain that for the masses? Because I don't think everyone knows what that method is and what it meant
I
to be a
mean,
child learning through that.
yeah, I mean, it's just they like to have just a mass of children. I mean, I never really thought about the method until she like posted about it, until she wrote about it. I was like, yeah, it's really weird that we get on the stand and it's very controlling and the mom has to do it with you and then they kind of get left behind at a certain point and everybody plays the same songs. And I mean, listen, I mean, it's great foundation. And if my kid were to take violin, I would put her in Suzuki because I mean, clearly it's very popular, but also very effective in getting kids to learn how to play. But I was more traumatized as a violinist with my very aggressive Russian teachers who shamed me in the
Oh,
most aggressive Slavic way and just would like take my arm and like, no, this is how you do it. Give some borscht, like that's.
yeah.
But just reading
Was
about
that
her
your Russian
perspective,
accent? Was that your
it
Russian
was
accent?
something. Who knows?
Hey, I mean, I learned Russian from an angry dance teacher. So I started in dance a very young age, and I had a Russian instructor because I'm like, well, she knows what she's doing.
Mississippi
And
hot
it
dog.
was the most, it was when I found out, when I got on point shoes, she's like, only cowards use lamb's wool, which is, I don't know if you were familiar with point shoes, you're on your tippy toes, and you have to put cotton at the bottom
Yeah,
of it, the
lamb's
base
wool.
of it.
She didn't like lamb's wool? That's
We weren't
wild.
allowed. Nope, we weren't allowed. So my shoes filled up with blood constantly. Anytime I was dancing at a recital
No,
or a thing, the
no.
blood trail, it was like a snail trail of, blood from shoes. It was very hardcore. And then I learned a lot of angry Russian phrasing. And then I ended up learning some Russian in high school just because I had a principal that was obsessed with that movie where the Russians invade Kansas. What was that called?
Red?
Red. What was it called? Red.
Red October? The Hunt for the Red October?
No. No. This is when they did a remake where North Korea invades. Red Dawn. Red Dawn. So the
Oh,
original is that it's Russians with Swayze and team. Like it's basically the Outsiders cast fighting off Russians in the '80s version, and then the remake they did North Korea, I think. Anyway, my point being, I've had angry teachers all throughout my life, but I did the Suzuki piano, and I didn't know it was Suzuki until she described it. I'm like, oh, that's what I was doing because
Mississippi hot dog. Mississippi hot dog.
yeah. And also, I did not want to learn Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or Mary Had a Little Lamb. I wanted to learn Chopin out of the gate. So my instructor was like, okay. So she taught me a Chopin song, which I know I can impress you with it, just one song. but I can't play anything else. And then I didn't learn how to really read music until I started taking band because I had to do band as a requirement in junior high and elementary. So I did saxophone to please my dad. And I really wanted to do cello, but we couldn't afford it. And it was too heavy to carry back and forth to school because I walked to school. So it was saxophone, alto sax. Then I got braces.
That's a left turn from a cello. I'll tell you now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I eventually ended up with guitar, which served me well,
Yeah.
but that wasn't until like high school. And to be honest, like I'm not a parent, so I don't know how you should navigate that. Maybe you can interject when your kid suddenly says, "Oh, I want to learn how to play this," but then
I do
also
it.
because
I do.
I mean,
I make it happen. Like if my kid
yeah.
wants to learn
But did
something.
they stick with it? Do they stick with it? Because I would drop things like a
Well,
hot potato
my
constantly.
kid, yeah, it's hard. I tried violin with her and I never thought it was a good pairing with her personality. She is not a people pleaser. She's not sort of a grind it out just for the sake of achievement kind of girl. She's very
Yeah.
sensory and she likes to improv and she makes up her own stuff, right? So I took her out of that pretty quick because she just hated it. It was 3 months and the teacher wouldn't even let her like make a note. It was all about bow movement. I'm like, this is not how you engage this girl.
No, this isn't Kill Bill. Like, let
No.
her do shit like that. Don't be doing you got to do the hey, wash on, wash off Karate Kid
Yeah, no,
method
that's not her
before she gets to
thing.
hit something.
And then she had piano
No,
lessons, and she had this really hot Greek instructor who did jazz improv with her, who was awesome. But then he left the country because of a visa issue, and
no.
the teacher who came in was really boring and just not a good fit for her. So I took her out of all of it for like a year and a half, and then just a couple months ago, she was like, "Mama, this instrument is so precious to me. I must learn how to play it." And she
I
literally
don't.
said it like that. And she shows me this recorder that she had found that I got in Belize like 10 years ago.
Oh,
And she was super, super into it. I was like, okay, well, listen, we're going to get you lessons, but you have to stick with it and you have to practice every day and I'll help you. So,
yeah.
and we do it. Like sometimes she's a little bitchy, but like she really is into it. I was like, this is her personality. I could see her playing the clarinet or the flute, saxophone, any of it. But
Yeah.
she's definitely a wind player. So I'm like, oh, she found it.
Yeah. Also, sometimes I think, and I'm trying to remember because my school days are a little hazy, but I do remember as super young kids, and we'd have music class, they would let us pick our instrument, and it's just a matter of how fast can you run to the thing you want. And sometimes I
That's
would end
horrible.
up with the triangle because I was slow that day,
Yeah.
or the bongos or whatever.
Oh,
And I
Jenna.
can't, I wanted to be a drummer, but I just didn't have the patience, and I needed something more melodic to keep me going. So piano was easy because we had a piano at home. It was like an old timey player piano, stand up piano, but you
Mm-hmm.
could also learn how to play on it. And also, I think I just desperately wanted to be in the Go Go's or Duran Duran at the time. So I was like, oh no, keyboard. And then I asked for, fancy Roland keyboard for Christmas. And because we're poor and also my parents have no clue, they got me the cheapest Radio Shack Casio you can get with the like samba beat. So I was like learning how to play Human League songs, but with the samba
That sounds
beat.
amazing.
But I loved it and it was so much fun because I wanted to pursue it. Now, I also had parents that thought maybe you should learn how to sing, and that did not work out because I'm very tone deaf when it comes to singing.
I mean, it's
I've
nice
even
they tried things. I mean, I feel like if your kid's coming to you and it's like, I really want to do this thing,
yeah,
you're the only person in the world who should be like, yes. For
right.
them in life, it's always going to be a no most of the time.
Yeah.
I want to be the person
I
who
mean,
says
unless
yes.
unless it's something really like not appropriate. Like if
Well,
I
yeah.
had said I want to learn how to dance the pole when I was like, 10, that probably wouldn't have worked
I
out.
mean,
Uh
yeah,
I
I
don't
mean, that's a little
I
different.
mean, that's something for later times. But yeah, I also 4-H and I think 4-H and Girl Scouts and really helped me kind of figure out stuff I wanted to do because
Yeah,
there's an
you just
array
have
of
to be exposed
badges
to
and
it. I think
yeah,
it's really important. You get exposed to something you don't know. Everyone is,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh wait,
Well,
what does everyone say
so
in the chat?
I want to really bring up like Rocket Soup said mentioned that he thought it was great how she has no limit to oversharing, which are probably my favorite parts of the book as
Yeah.
well. Like her
What's your
sharing
favorite one?
things you would never share with anyone else on the well, first of all, the way she murdered her pug, which was very sad.
Oh yeah, that was
It
sad.
was an accident. The pug fell. She actually moved the ramp, and the pug fell 3 feet, and it just passed away.
That was sad. That was
That was
definitely
sad.
sad.
But also her constant thoughts of horrible things that she would do to her family throughout her
Yeah.
It was, I mean, it was funny, but then also so sad. I was like, this poor
Yeah.
girl, she was plagued with guilt and all these feelings about having these, don't think about murdering your mom. Like, and I guess, I guess it tied back to her OCD, which was undiagnosed and untreated and all these things when she was
Sure.
younger. And I just felt so bad for her. It's,
You know, it is, and again, this is also not to turn this into like ADHD TED Talk, but I did not know oversharing is an ADHD trait, and that's something I do. I do
oh,
that
I
all the
do
time.
too. I didn't know
I
that
do
either,
that. I
but I
mean,
do it for sure.
I've embarrassed friends where suddenly I talk to the Walmart greeter about, something I shouldn't be talking about. I'm not gonna mention it, but like, or I'll flirt with someone maybe I shouldn't be flirting with, and maybe I should just shut up. Or I'll when I talk, there's this great SNL skit that Kristen Stewart did when she was hosting one time, and it was called Duolingo for Kids, and it was how is a single adult without children, what are you allowed to talk to kids about? And because I don't know how to, I'm a kids author, I'm around kids all the time.
Hmm.
I treat kids like miniature adults, so I'm not like, oh my god, this is such a cute blah blah. I'm like, so what do you think of Bitcoin? Like I don't really think maybe they don't care, but
Hey,
luckily
one of those
I
kids
can
probably might get into
they
Bitcoin
probably
because
know
you asked
more.
them.
Well, also, I consume the same stuff they do. I'm watching the same movies and comics and books and video games and tabletop games. I'm doing pretty much what a 12-year-old me would be doing because I have no supervision. So that's why that looks like a 12-year-old's goth apartment that's
No, it's
me.
way
I
too
haven't really
organized for that. Listen, I know a child. My
well,
job as a
I
mother now is to move her possessions from one part of the house to the other. That is literally just my job.
yeah, one of my friends who's a new mom was like bins with wheels, just have them decorated and just have them all over the house because you just throw everything
That's
in there
very
and
smart.
that's But I mean, here's the thing. It's like oversharing in this book is a big thing. Again, she's our generation. So for me as a child, and you're a bit younger than me, Felicia, but when I was a child, and I was in a family that didn't believe in mental illness, even though we had a lot of it,
Hmm.
there was no therapy. That's for rich people. So like I was undiagnosed for the longest time with everything. I had depression, anxiety, like OCD stuff, and also suicidal ideation constantly, and oversharing and ADHD. So, and rejection sensitivity dysmorphia. Like now I have a user's manual finally, but I didn't. So when I read this, I was like, yeah, I didn't, my family didn't know what was wrong with me either because I had a brother that was fine. He was like, had no problems whatsoever. He
Yeah.
could get along with anyone.
Well,
Meanwhile,
the great
I'm the
blessing is
outcast.
that at least through people's transparency, through social media, people are being exposed to things that they can identify in their own life that they might just
Yeah.
suffer with and feel isolated about. Like, I'm sure somebody is reading this book and think like I think about murdering my parent. Like, I'm afraid that I'm going to murder my parents all the time too. Maybe I should get some help. Like, that's really how beautiful, I mean, yes, oversharing and social media, everything has its issues, but better to be like
Well,
exposed to something and find that
yeah.
it's not for you than never be exposed to it because one person is going to benefit from that exposure so much.
I think also the thing I do, at least for me personally, the reason I overshare, it's part of a nervous tick I have, but also ADHD, but also I'm so desperate to make deep connections with people, and I try to hurry the process maybe a little too fast. And my small talk is overshare, so like I need to. Also, sometimes I say things very quickly that are huge
Have you
deals
ever
that I
microdosed mushrooms?
yeah, yeah. Well, I've overdosed mushrooms too, but
Oh
yes, I've
God.
microdosed them.
Hottest thing right now. I don't want to do it, but it's like
Well,
everybody's doing it, and I'm like, all the moms I know are doing it. I was like,
yeah,
this is a thing
it's not just mushrooms, it's also LSD, a liquid LSD. You need to have like obvious supervision, obvious someone who knows what they're doing. Don't go on an ayahuasca retreat and do it. Like get someone who
I know a
knows what
lot of
they're
people
doing.
doing that. I'm just like, what is going
I
on
mean,
in the city? Like,
I
I
know.
don't go out of
So
my house. I had a rap party I was supposed to go to tonight, but I have a bad headache and my kid is sick, and I'm
oh.
like, I'm not going. But most people would be like, oh darn. I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah,
So like,
it's
this is not my path. But like, the LA is crazy right now with people just like microdosing because they're stressed, and I'm just like, well, I don't want to judge you, but I'm worried
I mean,
about
here's
the.
the thing. As
I
long
don't
as you're
know.
doing it responsibly, buy it from not the street, because I guarantee you there's fentanyl in it. They'll be dripping the mushrooms with fentanyl. Just because mushrooms are organic doesn't mean what you get is
Exactly.
organic. So be
That's the
careful.
problem. Not that,
Yeah.
vitamins are regulated. I mean, let's be honest. They don't even proof what's in magnesium. So we could all be dosing on something that somebody puts in there. Like the fact that they don't insist people have regulation for what's in a vitamin is criminal to me because it's
Oh
like
yeah, and
billions of
especially
dollars.
well, especially weight loss. Like in the 90s, before ephedrine was considered, oh, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. It was a diet aid. So you could buy over the counter stuff at Walgreens that had pure ephedrine, and you're just basically doing speed. And now it's Adderall, Vyvanse are also basically meth that's legal. But like, so everyone's saying they're ADHD when maybe they're not because they just want speed. And it's like, look, I'm telling you right now, those pills sort of work for me, but sort of don't. So those don't really help me. I have to just do coping mechanisms and exercises with my brain and therapy, and that's what I'm trying out. But I don't microdosing's been around since forever. In fact, it's been around before mushrooms were attached to hippie stuff. Same with LSD. Cary Grant, the actor, was doing microdosing with LSD for his depression,
I
and
mean,
then
I'm not saying
LSD
it's a bad thing. I'm like, just make
no,
sure
no,
you're
no, I'm
getting like stuff that's
yeah.
consistent, and also
Just
if there's
get
some supervision that you
supervised.
could get, it would be great. Well,
Yeah,
whatever. I mean,
yeah.
honestly, I've ever since I think a lot of my mental health issues were stress,
Mm.
overwork,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I and anxiety, just kind of like a baseline of anxiety that I've dealt with now
Sure.
with at Lexapro. Diet makes a huge difference for me because the fluctuation in hormones is what, and I got diagnosed with PMDD, which is like basic super sensitivity to hormonal fluctuations, which means I like a couple times a month, I'm like, can't sleep and the sleep affects me. So, like, stabilizing my sleep and my hormones has been like a godsend for me. Like, and I've
Sure.
been doing it through, taking some basic supplements to make sure my B and my D are,
Yep.
working,
Yep.
getting my stomach issues worked out. I do take like an anti-cortisol before I go to bed, which is like an ashwagandha,
Yeah.
herb. And I take my
Sure.
Lexapro, and like it has changed my life. Like I feel like I can deal with pretty much anyway, and I feel very settled in myself and my body, and that's really hard to get to,
And your body changes
without a lot of
every 7 years.
experimentation.
But your body chemistry changes every 7 years or so too. So it's like, and also your body gets used to medicine. So like I'm on a thyroid thing, synthetic thyroid, because I have an underactive thyroid. I've
Yeah,
been on
that
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 forever.
affects a lot of things.
That affects a lot of things, especially women, and it's hereditary. And I tried Lexapro, didn't work for me. I tried Wellbutrin, and that ended making me more suicidal. It was a side effect.
What was I on? I was on the one that everybody takes, not Paxil or Prozac.
Prozac.
No, it was the other one, that Zyrtec. It starts with a Z.
Well, Zyrtec's an allergy
Not
one.
Zyrtec. It
Zoloft?
tastes Zoloft. That's
Zoloft?
it.
Yeah.
And it literally did make me suicidal. I was not functional, and it was completely. And then the psychiatrist was just like, stick on it 2 more weeks. I'm like, I cannot do this.
Oh yeah, no, me too. Me too. With Wellbutrin, I didn't even know it was happening because I was taking it during COVID. I'm like, am
Ugh.
I just but it's also like a suicidal thought it makes you think it makes sense. Like it's not like woe is me. It's more like, oh, I have a solution. Like it's your brain lying, and it's very dangerous. And a lot of people, when you watch those commercials and they list all the side effects real fast, you should pay attention to that
You should,
list
because you
because
might
it
get
could
them. Like
affect
Lexapro
you.
makes me grind my jaw. Like there's a couple of
Yeah,
things I
and
actually get,
also
but I have to live with. But like the Zoloft, which is supposed to be the most innocuous of all those SSRIs, was a horrible fit for me. And so
yeah,
like
and sometimes mixing depression with anxiety stuff, and
it's
also,
really bad.
you know, it's crazy. So the only advice I could say is make sure therapy is a good thing. So try to get some therapy, whether it's an app or a person, like from a real therapist. If you're gonna get something prescribed, you need a
You
psychiatrist, not a
have to have a
psychologist.
psychiatrist and check in with
But
them. And also know that it's not going
check
to be
in with them.
overnight. It took like 8 months for my
And
Lexapro
sometimes
to even
the
kick
right
in.
and you might have the right thing, but not the right dose. So
Yeah.
there's like it's also that. So what I tell people is, look, I'm new to this game because I never took anything until I got into therapy. And also I'm anemic. So if you have low iron or low
Low
vitamin D,
D, low B.
that
Yeah.
affects your
All of
mood,
those
that affects your
things.
mental state, affects everything. So I always get blood work done twice or sometimes 3 times a year. I'm also like default a hypochondriac, but I like to blood tests are fascinating. I kind of
I just
gamify
got
it.
like 3 done. I got a
Yeah.
micronutrient done, and actually, the improvement between like August to now is like so much, you
I
guys.
mean,
So whatever
I
I'm
love
doing, I'm very happy with.
yeah, and keep trying things that try new things, try herbal stuff as well as over the counter stuff and as well as prescriptions. And like I lost I think 60 pounds since June, so my blood tests are
Wow,
totally different than they were in June. So I'm not pre-diabetic anymore. I'm not high
that's
cholesterol
amazing.
anymore.
Congrats. But
Yeah, but it was
also going
it's
back
a
to the
journey.
Well, going
I'm
back to the
sorry. Go ahead.
book,
Yes.
a lot of, she did have a total mental breakdown, and that's kind of what her
Yes.
TV show is about, but also she talks a little
Yes.
bit about it here. And a part of it was her total reluctance to get on a certain drug that was actually
Yeah.
really appropriate for her. But also, she talks about, like, yeah, I needed to establish a baseline so at least I know, oh, I'm not okay right now. Because before, you don't know what a baseline is. You're just like, I'm in the moment. I'm
Yeah.
feeling whatever I'm feeling. And it's really, I thought it was really wonderful for her to share all that really, really gritty stuff. Now, she does
Sure.
also give you an Excel sheet of all her income, which I found fascinating. But I'm
I
just
love that.
like, wow.
I love that. But also, like you, I think we talked about this a long time ago too, because I'm a struggling writer. I always, and I think women do this, unfortunately, we undervalue ourselves to the point where we will sometimes lowball ourselves in our rates, like our financial rates when people want to
Yeah,
hire us.
people should tell everybody what they make all the time.
Yeah.
There should be
But
total
also
transparency because
when
I'll
you're
guarantee you women and people of color, they'll be like, "Oh, that guy's doing the same job I have and he's making 20% more. That's great." Yeah.
statistically, we're known for like taking the first job offer salary instead of negotiating. And also I'm a people pleaser and also I'm just desperate to be hired. So a lot of times I'll be like, yeah, perfect.
Mhm.
Instead of going, hey, can I have this? And sometimes like now as an author, I'll be like, okay, that's kind of a low rate. So can I get like 10 author copies of the book so I don't have to pay for 10 books and whatever. So there's
Yeah.
ways to negotiate, but like I love that she did the transparency thing on Twitter and I think Threads and I think also maybe it's Blue Sky or Mastodon. There's a bunch of writers now that are being really transparent with this is how much I made on this book. I had to pay for the book tour myself and expense it and my publisher only paid half, or this is how much a publicist costs if you self-publish. That stuff is very fascinating to me because there's no regulation. There's not a union for authors. There's no like
No,
you have to
no.
pay this. And same with journalists, same with game writers, whether it's tabletop or video, same with artists. Like as an artist, art is subjective. So how do you know something, that you could sell for $500, you should be charging 5,000. So I
Yeah.
love that she is transparent about
I did
that
too.
in
I
here.
was like, oh wow, stand up seems like a good gig if you can get to that
Right?
level. I mean, but I think she really showed in her journey on her television show that that was not for her. And I can only
No.
read between the lines, and I do feel
Ugh.
probably sorry to any below the line who were working on that show because it probably was an absolute nightmare for them. And she's totally justified in setting those parameters, but like TV is ridiculous, and because of the equally ridiculous things that they're allowed to do to crew, which is why we're going to have another strike in the summer with IATSE and the Teamsters. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
any other business is like, yeah, you're going to work 14 to 18 hours a day for like 8 months at a time with no break. And you're going to be going home at 4 a.m. on a Saturday and then going back to work at 4 a.m. on a Monday. And it for
Yeah.
years. And I'm just like, how is
Although
this a thing? How is this
the only
legal?
time, and I'm not a TV person, so I'm not an actor I've been on things, but only for my friends. Thanks for having me on the Guild, Felicia. But like, I'm not an actor. I'm not an all caps actor. And I can't memorize worth shit. So I'd have to write all my lines on different things and walk around it. Like Amy Sedaris said, that's how she remembered things on Strangers with Candy. She'd write her dialogue on props and then read it because
Uh-huh.
she couldn't. But here's the thing. That's also a startup. So when I did tech startups, game startups, also companies that kind of make you feel like you're part of a family and not a business, like the WeWorkization of things. Like Lucasfilm was like that. Lucasfilm treated us like family. So I was 18-hour days there and I would come in on weekends and they would encourage it, but not legally say you have to do this. But it was like, well, if you want, you're at the company, you love what you
Yeah,
do,
that's
but
that
also
sort of
you're always
tech
kind of a,
mentality. Like, hey,
yeah,
is crunch, oh, you don't like crunch? I guess you're difficult.
or you don't want to be replaced. And so there's that stress of they could replace me at any time, especially in California. They don't have to get a reason to get rid of you. There's no companies get rid of you for anything aside from like the major stuff like racism, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they still kind of do that. And I've noticed, especially tech companies, and still Google's like that, Facebook. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
about Twitter with Elon, but they do treat young people like, oh no, you work here all the time, but look at all these perks. You get free bagels, free coffee, free
Oh, they did
drinks, free
that at the beginning.
lunch.
It's like, oh yeah, we'll give you, it's like you're on a dorm. You're a
Yeah,
dorm, but it's a work dorm.
yeah. So I'm glad that she talked about that and also all the stress she had with her show. And also
And
I'm
her
glad she has
husband,
this.
I worry about,
Oh my God, I was about to say the spouse. Oh
I
my
don't
God, the
think this is the
husband.
last thing that we're going to go over because we're almost at the top
Okay.
of the hour. But like,
Okay.
listen, Steve, I don't think it's going to last. That it was I
I know.
feel when you read, there's so much love with her family, and then Steve, it's just like, oh, this guy. I mean,
But
there
here's
is
the
some
thing,
love there, but it's almost nostalgic love.
I mean, I'd also like love works for people in different ways. I'm a commitment phobe. Most of my relationships are people who go on tour a lot, so I don't have to have that pressure,
I mean,
right?
that's
So
nice. Yeah.
I mean, it is, but it
Separate
isn't.
houses are the best thing ever.
And also because I'm bisexual, I have twice the amount of people to screw over or screw over me. So I just don't. And also I'm in therapy, so we'll see. But when I was reading her book, I was like, oh yeah, she got a guy that understood her stuff because he's going through it.
Yeah.
Like the best example, and I don't mean to be morose, dark humor or gallows humor here, but when she said that she got so depressed and so suicidal that she was counting out pills and Googling how to overdose on certain pills she already had, which I do all the time, by the way, but
Right.
I don't move forward to the next step. Like I don't like I even have in my notepad section, there's a document called The End. And it's
Okay. Well,
every
hopefully
single
you'll talk
thing.
about this in therapy because that
No,
concerns
we
me.
do, we do. And again, I know I'm like kind of glossing over this, and please don't worry about me, people. I'm fine. It's something that I've always done, but like she talks about it that she does in her book, but then her husband, then they talked about it, and they're in couples therapy too, which is good. But her husband was like, "Oh yeah, why didn't you just do this?" Like he was like, "No, you want to do this?" But they're joking to each other. They're not actually going to do it. And when
Yeah,
people,
but
and I'm not,
she even says that comedians
yeah,
who are like, my wife sucks, haha, they actually mean that underneath. So then like anything she says as a joke, she's kind of implying that she means
oh,
underneath. You know what I'm saying?
trust me,
They're workshopping it.
after I read this, I rewatched all of John Mulaney's Netflix specials when he was still married to his wife before he
Oh,
got
his
to
wife's
Olivia
coming out
Munn.
with a biography.
Oh my God. I can't
It's
wait.
gonna
But I was like,
dish.
oh yeah, I see that. Also, I could tell when he's on coke. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but like you could when he starts joking about his wife, I'm like, oh shoot, because I mean that is kind of a tropey thing to do as a comedian. Like Jim Flanagan, what's his name? Jim Gaffigan does it all the time, and he has like 20 kids or something, and they're still together. But you kind of have to wonder when you put your relationship into your thing, does that does that mean you're on your way out, or does that mean just like you both love each other and
I think it's just the
you're just ha ha
approach. You
ha?
get the vibe. You get the vibe. And this
Yeah.
vibe was like, hmm.
Eh.
Anyway, okay. Well,
Anyway,
we love the book. Highly recommend it. It really inspired me in what I'm writing right now. And I liked what it inspired me to do is go a little bit farther than I'm comfortable in exposing some things because it is relatable and a little frightening, but also my favorite part. So I was like, that was really valuable.
yeah.
Okay, our book for next month is my pick, and it's called The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. That time I got drunk and saved a
I'm
demon.
putting the cover. This is the cover in case people want to see it.
Yeah.
How cute is that?
I mean,
Look at that couple.
it's
Look
clear
how
that
hot
it's a
they are.
vaginal fantasy pick, which of course was our original way that we got together and hung out, and
Yeah.
it's pretty great.
For those who don't know, Felicia and I and two of her friends did another book club, but on Google Hangouts when Google Hangouts was a big deal. On I think it was on Geek and Sundry, and then we moved
Yeah,
it
for
to
about
Felicia's
4 or 5 years, we did vaginal fantasy.
Yeah,
We were
and
before the whole phenomenon of lady
yeah,
lit, lady
we made
fantasy
things
lit.
clear. And this is the problem, Felicia. We are trendsetters and groundbreakers, but then we don't stick around the shit. So
Yeah.
like we did book two for book two was saying, and also we have many episodes on each channel. I also have on my YouTube channel a playlist if you want to watch them all. They're very fun. It's just the four of us kind of drinking wine and talking about a book. We're supposed to read a fantasy book. You named it Vaginal Fantasy Romance Book Club, which was hilarious because we would constantly get in trouble for the name. I don't know why.
Yeah, it
Vaginal's
was
fine.
not. It was not a very good saleable name.
But
But
then Google,
I always had
well,
good ideas, not a lot of marketing
yeah, but
sass.
then Google and YouTube used us as an example of their best practices at like
Well, we're good
conferences.
at what
So
we
like
do.
I would be there and be like, yeah, so we did fine. We're
Yeah,
fine.
and
But
this book
yeah,
is definitely something we would have read. It's on sale right now on Kindle. If you use Kindle, I try to buy my books physically, but I'm going to be traveling so much. I just got this on Kindle. I actually got a free copy of it as a preview copy, and I never went to the PO box for like 2 months. And then I was like, oh, I missed this, and I gave it away accidentally. I was like, oh no. So this is my circling round back to this book. I'm very excited about it. It looks real dirty, like it's very like
I love
hot
that.
romance. So we haven't done that
I
in this
mean,
club yet.
I think we need some smut right about
Yeah.
now. So I'm okay with that. Some spicy reads. I'm okay with that. Also, congratulations on your Audible award. by the way.
Yes, if you didn't know, I won the best audio drama of the year at the Audie Awards, which is basically the book narrating awards, and it was amazing. I have to tell you, I've never met a nicer group of people in my whole life, and I was super honored to be a part of their community. So, yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to go do some video game reading. Bonnie, thank you so much. Next month, we will be reading that. Check the Discord for the exact date, probably a month from now. And thanks a lot. All right, I'll be right back.